Okay, welcome back everyone to the orientation video part 2. This is where we left off on the PowerPoint. The next thing that you're going to work on this week is your green sheets. I had posted about these before spring break, and I know that you've done a set of these already when you did the intersection of your justice type with the other justice types. This set is actually a lot easier. It's more simple in that you are going to take each justice type one at a time. So if you look at the directions, again, the screenshot of the direction sheet is on D2L under the green sheet folder. So look at this first, but you can see I lead you through step by step. But for example, you'll start with, I tell you on the instruction sheet to start with communicative justice. And then you're going to pull out all 3 of the communicative justice texts. You'll have the expository text, the Emperor's New Clothes, which was the provided story, and then you'll have your choice story, whether it was your research if you're the communicative justice group, or if you're not, it would be one of your pool choices. So when you pull those 3 texts out, and you have a green sheet. There's also a link to a green sheet that you can print. Know that if you want to just use notebook paper or type it on the computer, that is also fine. You don't have to use my template, but you can if you want. Or if you have leftover green sheets from when we did the intersection green sheets, you can use those too. So you're going to start with the expository text every time. You're going to reread it. You're pulling out the big ideas. What is communicative justice? How would we define it? What are the big ideas and the theories of this justice type? And then you're going to reread the story. So you'll reread the Emperor's New Clothes, and you'll take notes on where you see those big ideas illustrated in the story. And then you'll do the same thing for your last story, which is, again, either your research choice if you're the communicative justice group, or it'd be your pool choice. And then you're just going to move on and do the exact same process for the other justice types. Now, if you look at the assignment folder, you'll see that just communicative, distributive, social, and procedural green sheets are due this week. Restorative and retributive are due next week, but if you're on a roll, just keep going. You can do them all, and there's assignment folders where you can turn everything in. Okay, so the next thing you'll do is start working on synthesis. So once we did the presentations, if we had stayed in class together, you know that you would have presented your justice texts by justice group. So communicative and distributive will go first. Now, because we don't have class anymore and you're not working in your justice groups anymore, know that I've recorded a video. So there's a Meg and Jan show part 2 that'll lead you through the synthesis of communicative and distributive justice. So if you think about synthesizing, it's the idea of laying everything out. Okay, so picture like a mosaic. I know when I used to live in Atlanta, I used to go on a walk around the neighborhood where I lived, and there was this one house where someone who lived in the house must have been an artist, and they would take plates, like china plates, and they would kind of smash them up into smaller pieces, and then they would create these mosaics, these really pretty pictures in their front yard, and they changed them every now and then. They were so pretty. And so that mosaic picture is a synthesis, right? So it's where you take the parts of other things and you recreate them in order to make a new whole. So that is technically what synthesis is as a concept. And so know that right now we have 6 different justice types, and we need to synthesize those down so that we can write one justice paper with one definition of justice. So in order to do that, we're going to take the 6 types and we're going to synthesize those down into 3 first. So we'll pair each justice grouping, we'll just pair each justice type up with another type. So first you have communicative and distributive, then we'll do social and procedural, and then we'll do restorative and retributive. And we'll get those down so that we have 3 parts. and then we'll take those 3 parts and put them down until we just have one and we're ready to write our justice paper. So that's kind of the bigger picture of what we're doing right now. So the first thing that you'll do to synthesize commutative and distributive justice is you have to watch the video. Now the first video, because it's doing a lot of the foundational instruction stuff, is long. It's about 40 minutes, so just plan on that. It'll lead you through how to take your green sheets and how to fill out. If you remember, we did the gray sheets before, but it'll take you through the gray sheets again, where we write a definition. So we will work on a definition of commutative justice and then a definition of distributive justice, and then we'll try to synthesize them together and write one definition that defines commutative and distributive justice together. So the video will take you through how to do that, the process of all of that. Then when you're done watching the video, there's a worksheet, and it's over here on the left side of the screen. And normally in the online class and the face-to-face class, you have to write 3 separate synthesis papers. So because of the fact that we missed 2 weeks, we are not doing that anymore. I have changed what we're doing. So this time I'm going to want you to read the worksheet of the synthesis of commutative and distributive justice. It takes you through a journey that will get you to that synthesized definition, and it will also take these different texts. So you can see them all listed here. It'll take you through these texts and how to fit them into a journey that is a logical progression to the thesis statement. So you'll see that when you look at the worksheet. Now, once you're done watching the video and reading through the worksheet, the next job that you have is to look at the student samples. So I'm going to take you back to D2L for a minute. On D2L, I want you to see, so we're down here. So again, here's the link to the video. Here's the gray sheet if you need to print some of those for yourself. Know that you can also just use notebook paper if you want. Here's the worksheet I was talking about that I want you to read through. And then you'll notice I've given you 2 synthesis papers. These are student sample papers that have given me permission to share them. The first one is from last spring. So this one here follows the exact journey that's detailed in this worksheet. This synthesis paper is actually Alex, our past leaders paper. Know that when I did his class 2 years ago, it was a little bit different. They actually had to start writing their journeys and coming up with them on their own. So one of the things that's really cool about his paper is he takes you through that process of how he came up with his journey and then how he wrote his paper. So go ahead and look at his paper too, although please note it does not follow the exact journey of this worksheet, but this one does. And so then when you're done reading both of those samples, so you've watched the video, you've done the worksheet, you've read both of the sample papers, then you're going to go here, and these are the directions for how I want you to write a reflection paper. You're not doing your own synthesis paper. Instead, you're looking at samples of ones that are already done, and you're writing a reflection about what you learned. And that assignment is due then on Friday, April 3rd, and again, this will open on the 30th, okay? So again, here are the direction sheets for that reflection paper. Then I want you to move on and look at social and procedural justice. Now, this video is shorter. It's about 20 minutes, so you'll watch the video. And again, this time I've given you the worksheet, so follow along with the worksheet. But what you'll notice is this worksheet is different than the one for commutative and distributive. Your job this time is going to be to try to fill out the worksheet. So I want to show you the worksheet. So I'm going to go back to D2L and show you that. So it is here. And so what I want you to see is that you're going to do the worksheet the same way that the one for commutative and distributive justice was done. So you'll see you're going to pull out those guiding principles from the expository texts. And then here I want you to map out a journey that makes the text that makes sense. I've given you the journey. So the journey for social and procedural synthesis would be first talking about voices heard or not heard. That's stop 1. So you would pull the texts from your text set, and again, they're listed up here, you're going to pull those texts and you're going to decide what text you want to talk about that address voices being heard or not heard. And then you need to figure out how would you transition from this stop about voices, because stop 2 is about protection. So if our voices are heard, people feel protected. And so then again, you're going to pull those guiding principles, and then you're going to move into figuring out what text illustrate people being protected or not protected. And then you need to figure out what transition text that'll move from protection in order to go to stop 3, which is opportunity. So if voices are heard, people feel protected, and that gives them opportunity to succeed in society. So again, you'll pull those guiding principles and what texts illustrate the idea of opportunities had or not had, and then you're going to figure out what text transitions from opportunity to legitimacy. So if voices are heard, people feel protected, therefore they have opportunities, and therefore the government and the whole system is legitimate. So that is the logical progression of the journey, which leads to the synthesized thesis, which is you're going to write down here at the bottom, because remember, this is inductive writing, so you end with the thesis statement. So your job is going to be to fill this worksheet out using the text set that you have. And again, that text set is listed here at the top of the worksheet. Okay, this is going to be hard. You're going to struggle a little bit through this, so please ask for help if you need it. Okay, and so once you're done with that, there's another reflection I'd like you to write. How did it go? What questions do you have? Again, because you're not writing the papers, it's important to reflect on what you're learning from these processes. So the papers have been cut, but you've got to think about what you're learning. Oh, I'm sorry, there is one thing I forgot to tell you. Once you are done with the worksheet, please know that there are sample papers again, so there are 3 this time. There are 2 sample synthesis papers that follow the same journey I just talked about, that voice to protection to opportunity to legitimacy. These 2 papers are student papers that follow this journey, and I've also given you Alex's paper that doesn't, but it's a cool way to see another way to think about it. And so then here's the direction sheet for the reflection paper, and here's the assignment folder where you will put the reflection paper. Again, it opens on the 30th, closes on the 3rd. Okay, that is the meat of what you're doing this week. All right, some updates. If you need help at any time, remember we're using the Purdue Online Writing Lab or the Purdue OWL for MLA citation. Please make sure you familiarize yourself with the Purdue OWL. It gives you all sorts of information on how to use or how to properly do in-text citations. Make sure you look if you need help as you are reading those papers. I'm not saying they were perfect. Remember, students were learning how to do this stuff, so there are errors. It might be helpful if you even notice what they are. But remember, all the time, we're using the Purdue OWL to help us with MLA citation. Okay, if you want to get ahead for next week, remember that week 12 will open at 9 a.m. on Friday, April 3rd. You want to remember that due this week first is that Legal Justice Mentor Text discussion board. Your initial posts are due Wednesday. Your 3 replies are due Friday. Other week 11 assignments are due April 3rd at 11:30. That's the green sheets for the commutative, distributive, social, and procedural justice, your text choice paper where you're picking from the pool, and your 3 research choices, and then your 2 reflections. Remember, you are not writing synthesis papers. You are going through the process, learning, and then reading samples of how they were written so that you can reflect on what you're learning. This will be hugely important because next week you will write the synthesis of retributive and restorative justice. You will do 1 synthesis paper, and that comes in week 12. So it will be important that you've really taken into consideration all of the things you should be learning during all of this reflecting and looking at sample papers. Okay, then I think that's it. So that overall, remember, our theme all semester is work hard, have fun, but don't forget that you need to map out your plan this week, follow your plan, ask for help. Email me if you want to Zoom in to an office hour. I'd be happy to help you with any of this. You can also, I'm sure, still email Alex if you need anything. And please let me know what I can do to help you during this transition. Have a wonderful week, stay healthy, and let me know what I can do to help you.